7:51 here, Big 550 KTRS. Well, it's an extraordinary story that was coming out of Rolling Stones. They found a woman who had been gang raped on the University of Virginia campus. It turns out, though, the whole thing was made up. Karen Chase with ABC News has been following the story. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning.
So, once the story hit, almost immediately people started to question the accuracy?
Well, actually, they first started doing all kinds of things on campus to combat sexual violence because they sort of believed it at first. They shut down the frat house. They imposed new security rules on campus, and UVA's reputation took quite a hit. Then the story started to unravel, and they found out that it was only based on the story of one woman they referred to as Jackie, and they never spoke to any of the alleged suspects in the assault, and they didn't check their facts.
So the Columbia School of Journalism does a review. I guess Virginia or the Rolling Stone, asked them to do it. And they didn't just say the story was inaccurate. It was a scathing rebuke of the Rolling Stones article.
2 words, journalistic malpractice. And that is indeed a blistering assessment of that article. They declared that the story was a failure of the editorial process on every level. And that includes Journalism 101. Check your facts. They didn't do that.
So how did this go so wrong for a newspaper like Rolling Stone, a magazine that actually had quite a good reputation out there?
That's a good question, and I'm sure they're examining that. A lot of people are very outraged that they haven't had any heads roll at Rolling Stone yet, and they need to do it. They've promised to do a better job editorially, but I think they have to start with that. There's a growing outcry and growing outrage that they haven't done that.
Rolling Stone has said that the woman who wrote the article and the editors are not going to lose their job.
I know, and isn't that strange? Although technically speaking, she's a freelance article writer, so that means they just might not ask her to write another article, and I think that would be wise. She, by the way, apologized to Rolling Stone, UVA, and to victims of sexual assault. She called the investigation's conclusion a brutal and humbling experience. 3 words for her: witness protection program.
Well, the university, do you think, will they take any type of legal action against Rolling Stone? Have you heard anything about that?
I would think they're exploring their options because they did violate journalism rules. They admitted they were wrong. They apologized. They retracted the story. And UVA issued a statement saying the false article did nothing to combat sexual violence, and it damaged serious efforts to address the issue. She called it, the president of UVA called it irresponsible journalism. I would be very surprised if they were not exploring their legal options right now.
What about the fraternity and the guys who were accused in the article?
That's a good question. I think they might have a case too because they were named. Their fraternity was named. Although one of the ways that the story unraveled was they found out that there could not have been a party at the frat house on the evening that the accuser said there was. I think they would have a case too. Not only was that fraternity house immediately shut down, they had to impose new security rules. For instance, having 3 sober members on any night that they throw a party, and they had to have new campus shuttles to help women get home safely. So they might have a good case as well.
Yeah, because and there were protesters on campus. There were, the backlash or the outcry after this story. They were calling for heads to roll. Are those systems still going to be in place at this fraternity?
I think they're probably going to stick with them, at least for now. They might fade away after a while.
Right.
But I think it did start a conversation about the ubiquitousness of sexual assault on campuses everywhere, and the need to address it. There was an article today in the New York Times about another UVA former student who claims she was assaulted. She went to the police. She did not get he was not criminally convicted, but the university held a peer review and found him responsible. They promised to punish him, but all they did was give him a letter of reprimand that was torn up after about 5 years after that happened. So there is some problem with the way that some schools handle this issue, and perhaps it needs to be dealt with more seriously.
What happened to this woman, Jackie, who made it all up?
That's a good question. No one can identify her real name. I think the only one who knows her real name is the article author, and she probably doesn't want to reveal it for many reasons. We don't know what happened to her.
Yeah.
I find it interesting also that Rolling Stone, the editor, was saying that this Jackie needs to take some accountability for making up the story, but really in the end, it's the reporter who believed her and didn't follow up on any of the clues.
It's exactly, you check your facts first of all, and then your editor checks your facts, and then you get both sides of the story. We can't go anything here at ABC without at least two sources, and we have an entire legal team that vets and greenlights everything that we say. We have to be extremely careful about what we say, and this person did not follow those basics. The reporter didn't, and her editors didn't either, and that's their responsibility. It's their publication.
Yeah, and it's a great point, but it wasn't like it was some great mastermind. I mean, as you mentioned, there wasn't a party that night on the campus, so it wasn't hard to check some of these facts.
It wouldn't have been had she tried, exactly. So she's not a good journalist. I mean, that's one of the first things you learn as a journalist. You can't do anything unless you have at least two solid corroborating sources.
Yeah. Their argument is that they didn't want to put her through the trauma of actually grilling her because she'd already been through the trauma of the rapes.
That's true, but the New York Times article that I mentioned, the woman who wrote the story actually mentions her own name to take control of the situation and to own it, and she wants to turn the tables on the entire no-name rape policy that many media outlets have. She wants to take control of it and stop feeling like a victim and start, trying to take control of the situation.
That's an interesting point. Karen Chase, ABC News, covering this Rolling Stone story for us. Karen, thanks for checking in.